With that, the Chair is going to recognize Mr. Pearce of New Mexico for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Macon, you had made a comment there in response to the gentleman from St. Louis's question about income inequality. Would you state that again? I'm just not sure that I heard the whole thing.
Well, very briefly, that as the other panel members have suggested, the central bank is really not equipped to address issues of income distribution, and the tax system is a better way to do that. And
Would you have any ideas what, I mean, understanding it's not the Federal Reserve or the central bank's job, but what would you recommend on the tax policy if you were going to make a recommendation?
I would prefer a kind of textbook approach, which was followed in the 1986 tax reform, which was to have the lowest possible rate on the broadest possible base. So that would partly involve financing lower marginal tax rates by closing loopholes, among other things.
Mr. Posen, the Federal Reserve has driven interest rates to almost zero. Is that, or to actually zero? Is that a good policy long term for the U.S.?
Congressman, it was a good policy and remains a good policy given the economic context in which we find ourselves. B, it is a policy that has very little in the way of long-term implications, despite the comments made by Dr. Lockman earlier. There is no statistically significant evidence across countries that low interest rates lead to bubbles. It's just not there in the data. It requires a combination of regulatory changes and animal spirits to get bubbles. Low interest rates don't cause them. And if it's not about bubbles, it's not clear what it does. There are second order, meaning existing but not huge distributional effects. So my mother, who's a retiree, who's mostly invested all her savings in government bonds, has less income now because the Fed did that. Other retirees who happen to have 401ks have more income because the stock market went up. The Fed can't fine-tune that without getting into deep trouble. And I think on net, it's not a big deal one way or the other. The interest rate only matters in the context.
If I could take back my time right there, I would invite you to come to my town halls. I have seniors. We have a little bit older population in New Mexico. They come there for the hot, dry weather. They say we lived our life correctly. We paid for our houses. We have cash equivalents. We used to get 4% income. This statement was made this last week, 4% income on our investments, and now we're getting 1/4%. So for every $16 they used to live on, now they have $1, and they're spending into their capital. And to hear you describe that as not significant, I would like you to use that terminology in front of the hostile people that I get to face at our town halls, because I will guarantee you, my friend, that it's a significant impact on the lives of seniors who have lived correctly, and because of the policies of this government and this administration, they cannot even live in retirement. And to have that described as non-significant statistically just drives people insane when they hear folks in Washington say crap like that. Statistically, not important. You have a response?
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
I have two responses. First, when I was serving at the Bank of England, I did those town halls myself without the protection of some local congressman or MP, and I talked to over 8,000 individual UK citizens while I was there, and I held myself accountable to people, and I explained to them that just as you think about the 4% you used to have wasn't controlled by you and wasn't set by the government, it was a market effect. In reality, if this economy is not growing, there is no interest rate out there, and it's not for the Federal Reserve to subsidize people just because they happen to have done what you call living correctly.
The Federal Reserve, I've got 24 seconds, sir, and the Federal Reserve is subsidizing Wall Street because zero interest rates are a boon to the big bankers. They get money for free,
The
and
tax
they are
code
able to then
subsidizes
charge
Wall
more.
Street
Mr. Chairman, I
respondents.
yield back my time. Thank you.